So today we will learn about a senior disciple, student of the Buddha. His name was Sariputra or Sariputta. We learn about his quality, but we will use it and replace his name. And we put our name into those qualities and see how similar we are to him. That's what we try to do today. And the topic is the most precious possession. Overcome the egoistic self to live a happy life. So this is the verse that we will learn today. Anybody volunteer? Read the English part. Our young friends. Any brave soul? Are you young? If you consider yourself young, you can read out loud. Just go ahead. You are younger than most of the senior people here, so yeah, you can go ahead and read it.
Like the earth, the arrowhead is patient and is not provoked to respond in anger. Like the doorpost, he is firm. He is unperturbed by the ups and downs of life. He is serene and pure like a lake free from mud. From such an arrowhead, there will be no more rebirth.
Thank you. Like the earth, the Arahat is patient and is not provoked to respond in anger. Like the doorpost, he is firm. He is unperturbed by the ups and downs of life. He is serene and pure like a lake free from mud. For such an Arahat, there will be no more rebirth. So, the initial question that we want to explore, what if we change the word Arahat with the word I or we? So like the earth, I am patient. I am not provoked to respond in anger. Like the doorpost, I am firm. I am unperturbed by the ups and downs of life. I am serene and pure like a lake free from mud. For such an I, there will be no more suffering, no more rebirth. Do you see yourself in there? So if you see yourself in there, do you see good quality or you see not so good qualities? You see yourself at the pure lake or mud? Let's just keep that question in mind for now, right? The topic of today's talk is what is our most precious possession, right? Let's try to answer that question. But before that, we'll learn about the story behind this verse. I'll tell the story in Vietnamese. And for those who don't understand Vietnamese, you can read the story on the TV. So let's return to our topic. For each of you, what is the most precious possession for you? What is it? For her, it's the breath. What thing, what object that we take care of every single day? What is the thing that before you come here you have to, do something about? Make sure that it's beautiful. Make sure that it's handsome. That's our body, right? The reason that we have the notion that our body is precious and we take care of it because it stems from our egoistic view The ego tells us that we have a self, we have a body, so we better take care of it. That's why we think that our body is precious. Is our body precious? Yes? Can I hear more yeses? So the Buddha teaches us that having human body is extremely difficult, extremely hard to obtain human birth. But the difficulty doesn't stop from there, right? How are we going to use that body is more important than just having this body and call it precious. So there are two difficult things here. Obtaining human birth is difficult, and the second thing is, I think is more important, is that how are you going to use it? Are you going to use it as a means to transform suffering, or are you going to use it as a tool for you to just satisfy your sensual pleasures? That is the more important question when having a human birth. Because it is easy for us to go with our desire. If we have to choose, we rather choose to sleep than meditate, right? So like we say, having a peaceful life is hard, right? So we work, we do something in order to, create a peaceful life. But what are you going to do with that peaceful life? Are you going to create more stuff, do more to make your life more peaceful, or keep chasing after things that you think that will contribute to that life? Or when you have a peaceful life, you are living, enjoying that life. The topic today will help us go deeper into our day-to-day thinking about ourselves and about the life that we lead. So we all agree that having a human form, human birth, is hard. But then the next question is, what are you going to do with that? When we obtain this human form, then the byproduct of this human form is the egoistic view. It is to survive, it is to thrive. It helps us in certain ways, but it also is the cause of our suffering or distress or depression. So when you think that you are important, or you are beautiful, or you're smart, but other people don't think like that, other people don't look at you like the way you look at yourself, so that is when suffering arises. Because the way we look at ourselves is totally different from the way other people look at us. Right? The problem is not about different perspective of ourselves. The problem here is the desire to make everybody look at ourselves the same way, the desire to alter, to change other people's view of ourselves. Our presence in any environment is guided by the ego, right? Like today you say, I am going to the temple. So there's an I go to the temple, right? The conceptual mind about an ego, the idea of an egoistic self, will guide our everyday activities. And our ego is respond to different places that where we are For example, if you visit Washington D.C. or a Grand Canyon, your ego is just small, very small, because the place is vast and with long history, right? But you visit a place where you have contributed, your ego will become big. It's bigger than the place itself, because you think that your contribution, your work at that place is too much for that place to handle, then your departure is inevitable. Because that place is too small for you, because your ego is too big for that place to contain. So is that ego important? Is that ego precious? Should we let it guide our daily life, or should we, have something in order to guide the ego? So how do we overcome that egoistic view? So there is a story about a king whose name was Ashoka. And when he became a Buddhist, after he took refuge, he respected the Sangha, monastic Sangha, very much. And whenever he saw, monks and nuns, he would bow his head, right? And one of his ministers didn't like that. He said, "You are a king, you shouldn't do that." And then the king gave him an assignment. So he called 10 people, and then the other 9 people would sell 9 pig heads. And the one who complained would have to sell a human head. This head. So whoever finished the job came back to the king. And then the 9 people sold the heads quickly. But the one who complained, who had to sell the human head, couldn't do it, couldn't sell it. Nobody bought it, right? So he returned to the king and told the king that he could not sell the head. So now the king asked, which is more precious, my head or the pig head? If my head is precious, if human head is precious, why are you not selling it? Why nobody is buying it, right? That's why the story tells us that it's not about the head, it's about the ego that perceive the head as important, but actually when you really cut it off, nobody wants to take it. So in the 19th and 18th century in Vietnam, there was a king who initially did not respect Buddhism. He disregarded Buddhist monks because he followed Confucianism. Then a Zen teacher wrote to the king explaining the beauty and the profundity of Buddhism. That was when the king understood, and then he made this statue that he was the one who was bowing, deep bow, and carrying on his back was a statue of a Buddha. The statue is called the King's Confession, or the King's Repentance, right? So that is how they abandon their ego in order to respect, in order to follow something bigger. So that our ego is like a big bubble. The bigger the bubble, the bigger our ego is. It seems big, but there's nothing inside. It just occupies space, important space for other people. So regardless of how important you are, how beautiful you are, how handsome you are, how rich you are, how wonderful you are, when you come here, the only place that you sit is on that small cushion. Regardless of how big your house is, the only space that you need to sleep is just small bed, right? And then in the end, when you die, you will just occupy a small place. So let's keep our ego in check. How we do that? That is the meaning of our verse today. Be like the earth. Whatever you throw on the earth, beautiful or ugly, clean or dirty, the earth doesn't respond. Can we do that? Can we try to not react immediately when someone says something or does something to us? American people, or people who live in this society, tend to have more kind of individualistic view of ourselves, right? We have to acknowledge that. It's a lot about me, my, and myself. Too much of those is not good. So the teaching of today's lesson kind of help us return to see where is our ego right now. And if we can keep that ego in check, then happiness is inevitable. You have to be firm, not being swayed by external voices. When you are firm, your action, stemming from that firmness, then the result is very effective and very transformative. Because you have a place to hold on to, that firm place. So life will never stop throwing mud at you. Remember that. And are you ready to let those mud calm down? Or you are ready to stir up the mud that you already have? Because remember, life is hard, life is not fair, right? Are you prepared to calm all the mud and see things clearly? When you see things clearly, you can change situations in a way that transformative and positive. Otherwise, you will contribute to destroy more things. So whenever someone says something or does something that is not kind to you, that's the way they throw mud at you. Let's pause a second and see. Should I react to this much? Do I have a lot of mud to throw at them, so back? Or should I let the mud calm down and find a better way? So when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it? Orange juice. Will apple juice come out of it? So why orange juice come out of an orange? Tell me. You think you're smart, huh? Tell me. Simple physics questions. It's not physical. So it is because the juice is already in there, right? So when you squeeze it, orange juice will come out. That's why apple juice doesn't come out of an apple and an orange, right? So when life squeezes you, what comes out? Anger, hatred, distress. Life will squeeze you. Ask the older generation, life squeezes them, has squeezed them so many times. So now think, when life, squeeze you, what will come out? Because what come out is what you have. If it's anger, then you have a lot of anger. If it's kindness, then that's you have. If it's hatred, then that is what you have. It's similar to the orange. Whatever you have, it will come out when life squeezes you. Simple. So now, as Buddhists or people who love Buddhism, we try to have a little bit of compassion, kindness inside us. So when life squeezes us, those should come out, right? So don't go around and say, I practice meditation, but when they squeeze you, the only thing that they see is anger and hatred. That's not good. Life, our world doesn't need more hatred and anger. We already have more than enough of those. So what's next for us? Life is not just an accumulation of, things, right? It's not just that. And happiness is not about having more. It is to give up more. Give up greed, give up hatred, give up illusion. The more you give up, the lighter you are. And you will move freely in the world. Because that is when you are not controlled by your ego. And the question for us all to reflect is, when we want to react to something, is that our ego reacting? Pause a second before you want to react. Because I know, and I have experienced, that we are always ready to react. And often we don't pause to reflect before the reacting. And that is where the conflicts, the fight, the war, everything bad happens because we don't pause. That is hard. It's not easy, right? Because we're used to the way that our ego leads us. Now we have to stop it. We have to pause and keep it in check. It's hard, but it's doable and it's very rewarding. Trust me. Thank you for your listening.